Nigel, thank you for coming on Face Speaks Louder. We're going to jump straight in, right?
Excellent.
And I want you to tell the viewers about what's happened the last few years, because you've been a voice that's been up and coming, speaking out about gender ideology. How did that come about?
Well, I was very interested in the fact that politicians didn't seem to know what a woman was anymore.
Right.
And that seemed to be anti-Christian, because for me, the central tenet of Christianity is that truth is sacred, identity is not sacred. Something's come along in the culture in the last few years and inverted that principle. So now identity is sacred and truth is not.
Right.
So I remember seeing a video which was of a Green Party hustings of candidates for the deputy leadership. And there's 4 candidates, and they were all asked a question from a member of the audience, which was, what is a woman? So the first candidate said, the question is loaded. The second didn't come from a place of good faith. The second candidate agreed with the first candidate. The third candidate said that her feminism was intersectional.
Right.
And the fourth candidate waffled for a bit and then said a woman was an attitude. And when what you think are intelligent people are talking rubbish, because the correct answer is a woman is an adult human female. It shouldn't be difficult to say that.
Right.
But this becomes so embedded, dominant in the culture, is quite extraordinary. And if you dig down, you can see where it comes from. And it comes from academia, unfortunately, which is tragic in a way, because academia used to be the place where truth was sacred. The slogan, the motto of Cardiff University is truth, unity and concord, which is, if you could sum up Christianity in 3 words, that would be it. You know? But what they're doing now is not truthful. Truth is no longer sacred in some schools of universities.
Right.
What they're pushing is social justice.
Yes.
And they're changing language in order to affect change in the culture. So that's what I was investigating.
Right.
And I'm particularly concerned about the impact on children. Because I'll give you an example about how things have changed and from what's coming out of universities. In 2018, Kirsty Williams, who was the then education minister, she asked Professor Reynolds from Cardiff University to produce proposals for a refresh of the sex and relationships education in Wales. So what's being produced is now called relationships and sexuality education. And what Professor Reynolds also produced was materials that can be used in schools. Now that material was called Agenda for primary school, Agenda for secondary schools, Primary Agenda for primary schools. And if you look through Primary Agenda, so Kirsty Williams said to all the teachers in Wales, this is a fantastic resource, you put out a video, please use this, it's brilliant. And on the Cardiff University Twitter feed, Professor Reynolds was saying this has become embedded in Wales and it's being used internationally. And if you look at Primary Agenda, there was lots of lies in it. You know,
Right.
I mean, so it said that protected characteristics under the Equality Act include gender identity and gender. Now, they don't, because under the Equality Act of 2010, the protected characteristics, there's 7, I think, altogether, but they include sex and gender reassignment, so not gender identity. And then in the Primary Agenda resource, it said children have a right to a gender identity. This is something she claimed was from the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. Now, that Convention on the Rights of the Child doesn't mention gender identity, so that's a lie. And then the third thing was that children's gender identity is settled, I think, something like that, that's the language, by the ages of 2 to 3. This is just, I mean, children are children, brain doesn't stop developing until the mid-20s.
Sure.
And particularly there's lots of rewiring going on during puberty. So there's 3 really, I mean, not inconsequential lies that are being pushed into schools. So you realise there's an agenda here. You know, there's something being pushed for a political reason, and this is not truth. This is not science. Language is being changed for a political reason.
Right.
Now, the relationships and sexuality education code and guidance, which is mandatory for every publicly funded school in Wales, that was published in 2022. And I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, but what you expect, it's supposed to cover sex education, so
Right.
you'd expect it to include sex categories.
Yeah.
But there's no reference to the words boy or girl, there's no reference to the words male and female, there's no references to the words man or woman. There are 17 references to the word gender. And within the code, it says that at a particular age, children should learn about gender and sex equality. Yeah. So when I was growing up, there were two definitions of the word gender.
Right, yeah.
It was a biological definition because it was a synonym for sex.
Yeah.
And there was a sociological definition which was to do with the expected roles and behaviours based on someone's sex. And that was the definition used by feminists. And you could tell the difference in the definitions because of the context in which the word was used. But now that's all changed because now we have a third definition, which is a psychological definition, which is gender is how you feel inside. And because we can't know the difference between the biological definition and the psychological definition, the biological definition has been discarded. We're not using that anymore. So gender is now only an identity, it's how you feel inside. So that's been pushed into school.
Where does science fit into it?
Well, that's a good question. And it's... I tell you where science comes from. Gender identity was first coined in 1964 by a fellow called Robert Stoller, based on the work of somebody who worked with transvestite and transsexual patients, and he's basing some of his work on his predecessor, John Money, who also worked with those sort of patients. So he coined the term gender identity to describe that dislocation between a person's sex and their internal sense of themselves. So it was used, most people understood that as not a definitive term, but a descriptive one. So it wasn't describing something, it was just, it wasn't defining something, it was describing a disorder.
Sure.
People were suffering from a psychological disorder. And when it came to the the DSM, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, it was described initially as gender identity disorder.
Right.
And there are two types, because there was mainly boys or men who got impacted by this. And it was either very effeminate boys who thought they were girls, and they were very young, so the children. And sometimes that problem got resolved at puberty. But the other category was adult males.
Right.
And so this is in the DSM version 4. It described them as people as transvestic fetishism. So they were sexually aroused by the idea of dressing or being as a woman. Then Ray Blanchard, who was a psychiatrist, coined the term autogynephilia to give a more generic thing. So it's anybody who gets sexually aroused by the idea of dressing or being like a woman. So two different types.
Yeah.
But this has completely been blown out of the water, and that there's just one course of gender identity thing, and you're kind of born with it. It's kind of established in you by the time you're 2 to 3. And this is not science.
No.
This is done for a political purpose. Yeah.
But why is it being used politically?
Okay. Well, some people have described this as an ideology.
Yes.
Some people have said it's wokeism, they describe it as.
Sure.
Some people have described it as cultural Marxism. I think it's a Christian heresy. And I'm gonna if you bear with me,
Yes.
I'll now refer to the Gospel of John.
Yeah, do it.
It's because in the prologue to that, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God.
Yeah.
And that's really quite deep and profound to me. And what I think it means is that there's an external reality out there, there's an internal reality in here, and something's really only created when it's given a name.
Sure.
Because we can only think about it when it's given a name.
Yeah.
If you look back to the first book of Genesis, God said, "Let there be light," and there was light, and God saw it was good. So there's that connection between language and reality.
Yeah.
So what's going on now is a Christian heresy because it's using language to try and affect change. Now, in the beginning of the 20th century, I think there was a philosophy academic, Ferdinand de Saussure, I think his name was.
Yeah.
But he said there is a signifier and a signified. And the signifier is the word, and the signified is the thing that the word refers to.
Right.
So you have a tree as a word, and you have the object tree.
Yeah.
That was all. I don't know too much about this, but I think I'm getting the sort of the gist. So
Yeah.
your viewers might be able to correct me or not. And then further on to that, there's another philosophy professor whose now name completely escapes me. It'll come back to me. But he said that actually, if you look up in the dictionary, if you look at the word tree, it refers to plant with branches, you know. And then you look up the word plant, that refers to something else. So he argued that instead of a signifier and a signified, what you get is just a signifier pointing to another signifier, pointing to another signifier.
Right.
So everything is just one endless chain of signification. And what he claimed is that there's nothing outside the text.
Right.
So language doesn't refer to reality. Language is completely self-contained. And as soon as you do that, you break the connection between Christ and God the Father, in my view, because
Yes.
Christ is the Logos, the universal reason, and you get to God the Father through the universal reason.
Right.
But now you've disconnected language from reality. So these people don't see, they look at the world and they don't see truth and falsehood. They see language either subverting or cementing structural oppression. So that they look at the world and see, these people are, oppressing these people because of this reason, or these people are oppressing these people because of this other reason. And it's extraordinary. So Judith Butler, who is a feminist writer, and she published a book, Gender Trouble, in 1980.
Yeah.
And she argued in society there is such a thing as a heterosexual matrix. So a heterosexual matrix means that men are expected to be masculine and are sexually attracted to women. Women are expected to be feminine and sexually attracted to men.
Yeah.
And that's the norm. So anybody outside that is likely to be ridiculed or bullied because they don't fit into the what's normal.
Yeah.
So she thinks, well, a good idea is to undermine that matrix.
Okay.
And to do that, you need to create categories between man and woman.
Right.
So this is where gender identity comes in.
Okay.
It's to dissolve the gender binary, they say. So you're creating categories. And what you've done, because it's not real. Gender identity is not real. So what you've done is created a signifier without a signified.
Yes.
So you're pointing to something which doesn't exist.
Right.
But I like to think of it. God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Judith Butler said, "Let there be gender identity," and the Welsh government said, "Let there be gender identity," and it wasn't good, because it doesn't point to a signified. It's not real.
No, well, it just led to confusion.
It is just chaos. But this is what's being pushed into schools for political reasons. And it's that the world no longer regards the truth as sacred. And it is extraordinary how far this has got.
So do you think then that obviously this has been introduced via diversity lessons in schools and sex education? Is it having a detrimental effect putting the education of it in schools? So it rather than teaching of it in order to prevent confusion, the very teaching of it is gathering rhythm and pushing this agenda onto the children.
Well, this is the problem. Kids have been indoctrinated in this for some time now.
Yes.
And I think actually social media has probably played a part in that.
Yeah.
I think on Tumblr, kids were just, in the late 2010s, kids were just inventing gender identities, 72 or something gender identities at one point.
Wow.
And so it all comes from kids inventing this stuff because they thought it was fun. But it then people think it's real, and young people think it's real.
Yeah.
And that's why they become very animated. So Rosie Duffield, who used to be a Labour MP, she's now an independent MP for Canterbury. But she put something out on Twitter, which was actually just a like of a post from Piers Morgan, which said that only women have a cervix, which you wouldn't think would be terribly controversial. Loads of harassment you got after that. Tons of harassment.
For saying
only a woman has a cervix, Huge amount of harassment. And if you remember, it was a few years ago, is when Keir Starmer wasn't Prime Minister.
Yeah.
But he was on television, and Andrew Marr asked him about this, and he said, and Keir Starmer said, well, saying only women have a cervix is something that shouldn't be said. So this is our Prime Minister now. And he later on said that 99.9% of women don't have a penis. And you think, well,
my gosh, it's just ridiculous.
It used to be 100%, but now 99.9%.
What?
So, it's just... And I think politicians are being influenced by activists, and activists have been... This has been indoctrinated them for years. Do you think
the politicians are afraid that if they say the wrong thing, then that means that they're going to lose the votes? And
I think it's the young activists are pushing this because they think, young activists are the adults of the future, and we need to be on the cutting edge of progress, so we'll just do what the young activists tell us. But the young activists are being indoctrinated by this nonsense. And it comes out of something which is anti-Christian, as I said.
I guess I'm seeing this a lot at the minute, is anything political or social justice driven seems to be quite anti-Christian right now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Why do you think there's such an emphasis on checking out Christianity when we welcome in things like Islam?
Because people don't understand it. It is quite extraordinary. I think pretty much every party on the left, and it's the Green Party, the Labour Party, Plaid Cymru, I would say they've all taken that passage from John, which is, I am the way, the truth, the life, no one comes to the Father except through me. They've ripped it up, stuck it in a bin and set fire to it.
Right.
And metaphorically, but that's what they've done. But they don't know they've done that. A, because they don't understand Christianity well enough, I would argue. But B, also because they don't understand the philosophy underlying the policies that they're pushing.
Right.
And it impacts all those parties.
Yeah. Well, they've made Christianity about love when it's about truth.
About truth.
And so because they're pushing this love stuff, anything goes. Because you've got to love everybody.
And
you take the truth out of it.
Truth is sacred and identity is not. But say they put it the other way around. Identity is sacred and truth is not. And that's the problem, because, you can't have fairness before you have truth. So you have truth first, and then comes fairness, and then comes social justice. Mm-hmm. But if you put social justice first, then all you're going to have is people fighting each other, because, you just got identity groups, really. So you've got tribalism. Yeah. So I think I think the Gospels are really, really inspirational, and they're just so fascinating. So it'd be nice to get back to that, because David Ewan has composed a Rohid, and in that he's now immortalised the name of Magnus Maximus, Maxim Ledig. Doitim cofio Maxin, dois neb yn ein nabod, something like that. Maxim Ledig, or Magnus Maximus, was a Roman leader, and he left Britain in 383 to try and become emperor on the continent. What people don't know about him is that he wrote a letter to the then boy emperor, Valentinian, defending the Nicene Creed, which is under threat of Arianism at the time. And he said, what conflicts are we going to have if we let Arianism in? We don't do this. This religion has been embedded into the minds of the people, or words to that effect. And if you look at the letter of the Confessions of St. Patrick from the 5th century, Nicene Creed, it's about the Trinity, and this is beautiful, and the rest of it. So we've got a Christian cultural heritage that goes back to at least the 4th century. Yeah. And we seem to have completely lost it. We just less. And I think, and I'm sure you think the same, theology produces values, values produce culture, And so in different parts of the world, they have different theology, they have different values, they have different cultures, So have we got anything worth defending? Well, it's been here since the 4th century. we probably should be aware of it. And it's made us who we are, And so Magnus Maximus, who's a military leader, thought it important to defend the Nicene Creed. And none of our political figures have got a clue. I mean, they don't care. They don't even know what it means. But it's the Nicene Creed includes the Trinity, but also it's we believe in Jesus Christ, the only Son of God, eternally begotten from the Father, God from God, light from light, true God from true God, begot not made, of one substance with the Father, through him all things were made. So it's kind of, this is the Logos, and this is the Greek translation of the word "word" in the Gospel of Mark is logos, and it's derived from Greek philosophy, and it means kind of order to things. There's an order to the universe.
Yes.
There's a passage of scripture which I just think is marvelous in Mark's Gospel, which is the two healings of blind men, and one is the blind man of Bethsaida, and the other is Bartimaeus, the blind man of Jericho. And the Bethsaida, the blind man is healed gradually. He first sees people, but they look like trees just walking around, and then Jesus heals him again, and then he sees things clearly. Evidently, to me, perhaps not to everybody, but this is a healing. They're blind because all they see is tribes, and they don't see individuals, right? So Bethsaida, all he sees is tribes. Now, and Jesus heals him, and he sees individuals. Between those two healings, you have Jesus interacting with the disciples. And the first interaction, and they're both all associated with the prophecy of the Passion. In the first interaction, Jesus rejects the desire to impose their will on others. That's great. Jesus rejects, in the second one, Jesus rejects the idea that people are less virtuous than others because they belong to a different group.
Yeah.
In the third interaction, Jesus rejects the conviction that sacrifice of ourselves for our faith makes us more worthy than others. And that, that talks to our ethos, our sense of moral, sense of moral authority, what we regard as our moral authority. So we don't impose our will on others, we don't think we're better than others, and we don't think we're more worthy than others. And that's a good kind of principle in life, isn't it? I mean, that's Christianity. And it comes to Bartimaeus, and Timaeus is, it means son of Timaeus. Timaeus was a famous book written by Plato, where he talks about a world soul bringing order into the world.
Yeah.
And if you look at the world soul, well, what is that? Well, right at the back of the start of the Gospel of Mark, the Spirit comes down in the form of a dove. Jesus being baptized in the Jordan, and a voice from heaven proclaims, "This is my son, listen to him." So there's the Trinity right at the beginning of the Gospel of Mark. So it's there all the way through. And the thing about Bartimaeus is that he's blind man in Jericho. What's significant about Jericho? Well, there was a battle there. Moses brought the chosen people to the promised land of Canaan. And he died, but Joshua then took the people into Canaan, and they fought. That's tribalism, not a good thing.
Right.
But he's blind, so he doesn't see.
Yeah.
And then he says, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Son of David. David was a king, and he defeated Goliath. Tribalism, not a good thing.
Right.
But then Jesus said, "Call him over." He said, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Jesus said, "Call him over." And then he got up and threw off his cloak. The cloak, to me, is your tribal identity. Get rid of your tribal identity.
Okay.
Start seeing people as individuals. And then he was cured. He saw things clearly again. So Christianity is anti-tribalism. Everything that's going on, which is identity politics, is pro-tribalism. Everything, because everywhere you look, it's and this is the Marxism bit that's coming into it. Classical Marxism saw the proletariat against the bourgeoisie. Now it's framed that white people oppress black people, men oppress women, straight people oppress gay people, all across the board. All anti-Christian, all going to cause conflict, all just undermining society.
And they label it community, but it's tribalism.
It's tribalism, yeah. They think it's diversity, equity, inclusion. No, just treat people as individuals. That's the way to go. And we're not a racist. This Christianity is embedded in this country since the 4th century. We're not racist. We're not terribly homophobic. I mean, racism does exist and homophobia exists, but it's not.
We're the most welcoming society.
I think so. And it's ludicrous
really
to say it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't just affect gender. I could talk about race as well. You can if you like.
I'm a friend then.
We're going to be an anti-racist nation, right? You think, well, okay, what's wrong with that? Well, anti-racism doesn't mean non-racism. So non-racism means you don't see colour. That's Martin Luther King.
Yes.
We judge a person not by the colour of the skin, but by the content of the character.
Right.
That's Christian. Yeah, I'm all for that.
Yeah.
But no, anti-racism is not. So the person who coined the term anti-racism is Ibram X. Kendi. Now, he wasn't always, he was born Abraham Rogers, right?
Okay.
That's what his name was. Then he wanted the Malcolm X vibe, so he put the X in. And then he changed his name to Kendi to sound more African, right?
Okay.
So he's brought out a book, How to Be an Anti-Racist. That's going all to Welsh University libraries. That's going all over the place. But you can see an article of his from years ago, Living with the White Race, right? See, it's online. Abraham Rogers, you can look at this online, Living with the White Race. And in it he writes, Europeans are a different breed of human. They are raised to be racist, okay? They live by the credo, survival of the fittest. So this guy is the inspiration for the anti-racism.
Right. So you've taken one person's theology to class a whole people.
He's the person, yeah, he's just... So if I came on here and said, Africans are a different breed of human...
Oh my gosh, it'd be like, woo! All of the news.
Can you imagine what happened?
Oh my
For
gosh.
you, given a platform for white supremacists.
Yeah.
I mean, it's extraordinary. But if you say Europeans are a different breed of human, yeah, you must have something important to say. Let's go for it. So he's coined the term anti-racism. So basically, non-racism is neutral if you just don't see colour. So you have to accept there's structural racism in society if you're white, and then work, if you're white, to undermine structural racism. That's what anti-racism is.
Yeah.
And then what do you think? Well, is there structural racism in society? Because I'm not sure there is, you know. And again, it's all... You're coming from a place where you think, these people oppress these people. And you think, well, is that right? And the logos is the thing you want to look for. Give me the examples. Give me some examples of that.
Yeah.
But all they say is, well, black people don't get paid as much as white people. Well, there could be a million reasons for that, you know.
Yeah, the same as women don't get paid as much as men. Well, they could be off on maternity leave. They could be any... There's so many factors involved.
There's multifactorial. So just to make these blanket statements, you know, but because of this, black people are obviously more oppressed. It's crazy.
Do you think that's what we've come to now, though, in this time, is that people are blanket statementing so much. They're not looking in and researching why we've come to this point, why this is existing in our society, because all I can see is more confusion being added, layers of confusion with identity, whether it be racism and, you know, all that type of stuff, or whether it be gender identity. There just seems to be so much confusion around it. And now anybody can say, well, it's my truth.
Yeah, I mean, it allows people to have a grievance. So if you get sacked from your job or something, if you're a black person, you can say it's because of my race, you know.
Yeah.
Not because of any other factor. And that's not great, is it?
No.
You know, that's not. So it feeds into a grievance culture.
Right.
I think. So we need to get back to Christianity.
I think Christianity is where it comes for accountability.
Yeah.
You are accountable to your own actions and your own identity and how you present yourself and what, you know, people don't want to be accountable anymore.
Yeah, you don't want to think, you know, the reason you don't get on in life is because of your skin colour.
Right.
You know? I mean, Kemi Badenoch's done all right, hasn't she? I mean, she's managed to get to be leader of the Conservative Party.
Right.
She's a woman and she's black, you know, so they're doing all right. Black people in politics, certainly the right politics, seem to be doing okay.
Yes, yeah.
So why is this obsession over race on the left? It's madness. Because because it doesn't seem to be... It's not an obsession on the right, and black people on the right seem to be doing all right. So
well, when it comes to, because I saw a study that you did based on Cardiff University, and you put up posters of what statements that particularly Labour MPs have said about gender and race, and there's none of them are telling you the truth. They're trying to skirt round saying the truth. Can we vote for people that cannot tell us what a man and woman is?
Well, yeah. I mean, people have said that, and if they can't tell the truth on that, why should you believe them on anything else?
Yes,
you know?
But even as Christians, is it immoral for us to vote somebody in that cannot tell you what Lord made right at the beginning, man and woman?
I think people need to tell the truth, and if politicians don't tell the truth on this issue, then
don't vote.
I'd find it difficult to vote for those people. It's just and it's you know, back in the last elections, I think, in the Senate elections were held in 2021, I think.
Yeah.
And every single Plaid Cymru candidate and police and crime commissioner had to sign a statement of Plaid Cymru policy regarding trans. So they have committed themselves, and I don't think they've revoked this, so I presume it still stands, that they would like to see change the Equality Act to have gender identity replace gender reassignment. They would like to see trans people have access to the services that align with their gender identity. Yeah, so that means men going into women's changing rooms. And they would like to see self-ID, so that there wouldn't be any medical assessment of a person before they get a gender recognition certificate.
Right.
And this is just, and then, you read it, and it's just, they don't know what they're doing.
No.
They don't know what they're doing because they don't know where this thing comes from. They seem to think it's exactly like homosexuality,
Right.
And for many years, gay people were discriminated against. But this is different.
Yes.
It's come from a different place. But they've lumped the two together, and they think it's exactly the same. We fought previously. We're going to fight again. We did it before. It's kind of an empathy that goes in there.
Right.
And it's particularly because there's 3 gay members of the Senate. Adam Price, who was the previous leader of Plaid Cymru, Jeremy Miles, who was previously Education Minister, I can't remember what he is now, Hannah Blythen, and they're all pushing this nonsense. And it's kind of like Shakespearean tragedy because, children, we all rationalise through language.
Yeah.
So gender was a synonym for sex. Now it's an identity. So any kid who feels, I'm a bit different, I'm a little bit gender non-conforming. Why am I gender non-conforming? Oh, maybe I have a gender identity that doesn't match my sex. So they wonder why there's so many gay children ending up in gender clinics.
Yeah.
This is another conversion therapy. This is conversion therapy.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's our gay politicians who are pushing it. I mean, it's just a Shakespearean tragedy. And they're doing it because it's the empathy,
Yes.
It's just like being gay. I know what it's like. But it's just nightmare. They change language, you're changing people's psychology.
My God, it's just so dangerous.
It is.
But now we're seeing a tidal wave of people that have transitioned, gone through surgeries, and now are suing different organisations and doctors and stuff because now they realise what they needed was mental health care.
Yeah.
Where do you think that is going to end up because of the vast amount of people this is happening to?
I don't know. I thought it would end a couple of years ago, and nothing seems to change. I mean, that's a frustrating thing. So the person, so there's one Labour councillor in Bridgend, Rhys Good, who said that Rosie Duffel should be sacked from the Labour Party because she's saying it's only women have a cervix.
Oh my gosh, it's just so ridiculous.
How terrible she is.
Yeah.
But he's now been appointed as a board member for Cwmtap University Health Board.
Okay.
And you think, well, what's he going to do there? Advise people on how to do cervical smears on men, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I don't know why he's there. And then Kirsty Williams, the Education Minister, she's responsible for pushing gender identity in schools, and now she's being appointed as the chair of the board for the Cardiff and Vale University Health Board. So nothing seems to change. It's really weird. But and I know, the evidence that it comes from feminism, this gender identity nonsense, is from, well, this is one part of the evidence. Sally Hines, who's a university professor, I think in Leeds or Sheffield, but she put out a tweet. The theory that everybody has a gender identity is called feminism. The theory that ever had. So it's a theory. It's just made up. It's not a theory at all. It's kind of these feminists are putting it out there, and it's called feminism. You think, well, you're changing language, you're going to change society, and not in a good way.
So you think that the core of it stems from feminism?
Third wave feminism, yeah.
Okay.
But the other thing that is pushing this is actually money, because people are making a lot of money from it.
Right, sure.
So I said this idea that a word just points to another word. This is post-structuralism. Jacques Derrida why I didn't remember his name, because all I read about is Jack Derrida.
Right.
That's his name, right?
Sure.
So he, so language doesn't point to anything out there. Just
Circular.
circular. Just looks reference themselves. There's an economist, a very famous economist, who's very well respected. Well, by some people. Deirdre McCloskey, another trans-identified male. And he's regarded as one of the founders of post-structural economics.
Okay.
So we make money, post-structural economics. And there's an article, William Milberg, I think. It's a quote from Deirdre McCloskey. Economics is argument, and the only measure of truth is the persuasiveness of the argument. Right? So this is the motto of every snake oil salesman in history.
Sure.
I mean, it's just madness.
Yeah.
But there is a thing called post-structural economics. Now, if you look further research on Deirdre McCloskey, he describes Plato. We're going back, 300 years before Christ. He describes Plato as the first modernist, and how it's great that we have this postmodern ideas now, because we can go back to the sophists who put arguments out there and didn't care about truth. All they wanted to do was to win the argument,
Yeah.
So he's glad that we have this new sophistry coming into the world,
Yeah.
and we just got people just wanting to win arguments. And this is such a culture change. It's quite extraordinary. And you see this, Stonewall have been everywhere. I think the Welsh government have given £1 million of public money to Stonewall since 2015.
Right.
And they've had a glossary which gives you sort of the definitions of these new words they made up. And they have a definition of transphobia. They changed it back now, but it used, for about 8 years, it was transphobia, fear or hatred of trans people, including denying their gender identity or refusing to accept it. Right?
Okay.
So I think the truth is sacred. So although I can agree that you might think you're a woman,
Yeah.
I know you're not,
Yes.
so I'm not going to accept it. And they could say that's motivated by hate, but it's not motivated because it's defined. It's in that definition of transphobia.
Sure.
So they're feeding this kind of frenzy, and getting people to be angry about somebody who won't use somebody's preferred pronouns.
Right.
And it's going everywhere. There's another. £110,000 went to an organisation called Gallup, which is an anti-LGBT hate charity. So they had a definition of transphobia. Again, I think that page is gone. But their definition of transphobia was, transphobia is based on the belief that there are only two sexes which you stay in from birth.
Right.
Which,
okay.
That used to be a common belief,
Yeah.
There are only two sexes which you stay in from birth. And now this is transphobia. So they're coming from a place where language changes society. They want to change society. They're pushing the language. But as I said, there's lots of people making money from this. And you find out some of the big backers. When Stonewall first became trans-inclusive, they had money from the Arcus Foundation. So the Arcus Foundation, run by John Stryker, who's heir to the Stryker Corporation, which is the biggest medical corporation in America.
Right.
So at the very least, you might say, a conflict of interest here, because they make money from gender reassignment surgery.
Right.
So you push gender identity into society, you're going to get more people transitioning. Big money going, because they pushed money into an organization called GATE, Global Action for Trans Equality. GATE lobbied the American Psychiatric Association and the World Health Organization in order to depathologize gender identity disorder.
Okay.
So the name has changed from that to gender dysphoria, and now changed to gender incongruence, and it's all trying to make it more normal. And the argument is, we don't want these people being stigmatized or bullied. You can say, right, fine, you don't want them being bullied. But at the same time, you can't deny that this is a mental health disorder. If you feel you're in the wrong body, it's a mental health disorder. And that's the problem, is that people now don't think it's a mental health disorder. They think, as I said, it's just like being gay. No, it's not just
And
like
it's
being
expanding now into believing that you're some kind of animal, and, it just keeps getting bigger.
It keeps getting bigger. It's so scary. So scary.
So how do you think, what do we do to combat this? How do we help people?
It is just, it'd be nice to see a resurrection of Christianity.
Yes.
I don't know I don't know how you can achieve that. But people need to our culture needs to go back. I mean, this is our heritage. We can't just throw it away.
Right.
Truth is sacred.
Yes.
And identity is not. Just go back to that. I don't want wars, people fighting each other. I want, Prince of Peace.
Yes.
We want that. So it's getting back to that. I mean, I always think things are changing slightly. Some of the big people have been pushing it in the Senate are not standing in the next Senate election. So that was Jane Hutt and Jeremy Miles. This is something. There was Gender Equality Review done, I think it's 2018, and Alison Parkin from Cardiff University was the chief author of the review. And she said, queer trans theories have argued that on the way to creating a level playing field, the gender binary should be challenged and the fluidity of gender identity accepted. So it's coming from feminism, isn't it? And then later Jane Hutt said the vision for Wales, the Welsh Government vision is a Wales where there's equal power, because they're all just thinking
Power.
Yeah. Equal power is Marxist, yeah. Equal power for men, women, and non-binary people. I think, well, men and women are sexes.
Yeah.
Non-binary is not a sex.
No.
Non-binary is made up.
Yeah.
And
well, how does all this fit in? Right, say replied now that are pushing this agenda as well. Pro-illegal immigration of a particular people and grouping of a religion that do not agree with this other grouping. How does that coexist?
The whole thing is a bit of a nightmare, isn't it? Because I think Islam's this is a Christian heresy, this gender nonsense. Everything to do with this, because it comes from Marxism and philosophy of language.
Yeah.
Islam, to my mind, is a Christian heresy as well. So we've got two Christian heresies that we're fighting. Oh God, it's horrendous. It's so difficult, and you don't have to go far. Swansea Mosque, on their website, there's a video of the Imam saying, Christians shouldn't believe that Jesus is the Son of God. Don't go too far. On this.
Yeah.
And on the front page of the website, you think, well, no, it's our heritage from the 4th century,
right.
200 years before Muhammad was born. What are you doing to us? So there is from both places that. People say, diversity is our strength. It's not our strength, is it?
No.
It's just crazy. You want people to have the same values. If you have the same values, then you have trust.
Yes.
And you can have a socially cohesive society. If you've got people who think their values are superior to ours,
right.
then there's going to be conflict, because they're going to want to impose their values on others.
So you believe that we can have Islam here, we can have people of different genders here, but you have to adhere to the value system that is foundational to our society, which is based on Christ.
Based on Christ. But as I said, it's there in the Gospel of Mark, isn't it? Don't try to impose your will on others. Don't discriminate in others because they're a different group.
Yes.
And don't think they're more worthy than others. And if you do that, then you can be socially cohesive.
Yeah.
But there's so many people who want to impose their way of life on us.
Yes.
I
suppose that's the problem.
Yeah,
it's not that we're against Islam. It's just that we are against the changing of our very value system.
Yeah. Well, I'd say I'd be against Islam.
Yeah,
but only because
I'm being polite. Don't want to put words in your mouth.
I'm not being against Muslims, because some Muslims
they're people.
are lovely.
They're lovely. Yeah.
Some Muslims are lovely. Probably the majority of Muslims are lovely.
Yeah.
It's just that it's just you don't want them to be taught things which are incompatible with the way we think, or the values that we have. We don't want to be taught that.
Yeah.
Because we want to get on, at the end of the day.
True.
So please don't try to impose your value system on us, because we've had it longer than you've had yours, frankly.
It's true. And a foundation of Christ, a country that's set up where its laws, its values, everything is intertwined with the Word of God, is one of the best societies you can live in.
Yeah.
Because you could look at the countries around the world.
I know. It is.
It's not hard to see. Iran.
I know.
Perfect example.
It is. It's terrible. And this is this sort of video of a fella in the Birmingham mosque saying the best way to stone an adulteress. And you think,
my God.
And you have to bury them up to their middle. Apparently, that's the way. And then
Oh, that's frightening.
But what does Jesus say? He says, about the adulteress who potentially
Cast the first stone.
Yeah, he who was without sin cast the first stone. So it's a different. Christianity has, you can refer to the Old Testament laws, but really it's a religion of principles rather than laws in my mind.
Yeah.
And there's things, you don't want to be the Judas Iscariot. You don't want to betray people's trust, and you don't want to be the pilot and avoid the responsibility that's rightfully yours, And there's things you can see in the scripture, examples of how we should behave and shouldn't behave. But they're principles, not laws,
Yeah.
And I think we need to push the principles rather than laws.
And I love what you said about these principles are supposed to be for the individual. This is, to me,
individual, not the tribe.
Not the tribe.
No, get rid of tribalism. It's terrible.
I think that's so revolutionary because we've got, Wales pretty tribal, let alone within,
I know.
People think I'm crazy when I say that, but there really is tribal mentality going on.
Anti-English. I mean, unfortunately, this is how you define yourself, I think, at tribes. I mean, this is my Welsh identity, and how do I define myself? I'm not English, This is This is
I'm not.
I'm not English, so I'm Welsh. And that's unfortunate. I mean, actually, Wales is quite a fascinating country, and with huge, rich culture.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to. I went to Banwyn the other weekend. They got the monument there to St Patrick, who some people think was born there.
Right.
Extraordinary. In Clanford Major, there's perhaps arguably the first university in Britain was St Illtyd.
Yeah.
And I think it's just our Christian heritage is really, really rich.
Well, the birth of Celtic Christianity is just quite a wonderful one, up there.
It is a fascinating part of the world, this, and I think really we should celebrate that.
Yeah.
If we can celebrate that, then we acknowledge its worth. This is us, right? This is what we've born with. This is our culture. We value truth over identity,
right?
And this is us, and we can spread this to the world. But just treat people, with respect, really, and don't try to impose your will on them.
Now, who would you say? You don't have to answer this one, by the way.
Okay.
Right, this is quite controversial. We've got, obviously, the May elections coming up in the Senedd, and I believe this is one of the most exciting elections we've had for Wales. From what I can see, it's a toss-up between Plaid Cymru and Reform right now. Why, I don't know. Because Reform haven't even got a candidate right now. So it's a bit bizarre, strange thing going on. But from what I can see, is Plaid are not for Christ.
No.
Right? They are left. We want nothing to do with Jesus. We're not a Christian country. But Reform seem to have this, whether they're using it as a tool to promote Reform, I don't know. But there seems to be this element of going back to biblical principles. Would you agree that that is the case?
I think a lot of people on the right have recognised there's a problem. So Danny Kruger, who left the Conservative Party to join Reform, has said that we need to get back to Christianity.
Yeah.
So there probably is that in Reform. I think it's probably then the Conservative Party as well.
Yes.
And the leader of the Conservative Party in Wales, he's a Christian.
Right.
He's a practicing Christian. So that's great. The right to fractured is quite strange. So as well as Reform, there's Advance UK, there's Heritage Party.
Heritage, Gwlad.
Gwlad, that's a Welsh nationalist party.
There's the Christian Party as well. I believe there's a party called the Christian Party.
Okay.
But fairly new on the ground, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know them.
Yeah.
So there's lots of parties around. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting, isn't it? I'm not quite sure what's going to happen.
Who would you prefer, Plaid or Reform?
I wouldn't want to vote for Plaid. I mean, it's this terrible thing to say because, I sometimes go to the Catholic Church. I occasionally go to my local chapel, which is Welsh language chapel.
Nice.
And they're all lovely people. But I think 90% of them are going to vote for Plaid.
Yeah. This is the issue we've got. Again, I said this, and there seemed to be a massive thing. But we have got an issue with Welsh chapels because they're Welsh language. They automatically vote for Plaid, not realising their policies are against them.
Yeah, and it is interesting in a way. I don't think the Trinity is very important to them. It's in the same way as it is in the Catholic Church.
Sure.
Or in the Anglican Church.
Yeah.
So they don't see that theology in the same way. It's very bottom up, and it's lovely. So there's educated people who come together and they, they worship together. And they're lovely. And they're nice. And they do a lot of good work.
Totally.
So I won't criticise them anyway.
No.
Really, other than the fact I think they're all going to vote for Plaid, and I think, really? Because I don't like that.
No.
Because it's this is the other thing that perhaps you're not aware of. There's a proposed voting change in the Senate elections. It didn't go ahead because of threat of legal challenge.
Okay.
But this was going to be the voting change. Did you hear this? There's going to be the plan was that there would never be more than 50% men as Senate members. Right?
Okay.
So to have a voting system which ensured that you could never have more than 50% of men in the Senate. So you could have 100% women, or you could have 100% men who identified as women.
No.
Yes, honest.
What?
Yeah. So if you were a man who identified as a woman, you'd be classified in the woman category.
What?
That was the proposed change. Now it is Women's Right Network Wales put up a legal challenge to it. So they thought, well, if the challenge go ahead, we can. Yeah. And then they were advised by the Equality and Human Rights Commission this may not be legal. So they withdrew that. But I think they might be pushing that again. So you think this?
Why?
It's all to do with this Marxist nonsense, isn't it? They just want equal. It's because they want equal sharing of power for men, women, and non-binary people. So they want a Wales which has the Senate, which is no more than 50% men. My
God! So it's not based on the merit of the person anymore. It's based on this collectivity.
Again, it's tribalism, isn't it?
It is tribalism.
It is just. Let's get back to. Yeah, this is. We need more women, so let's have. Policies in place to ensure that there's it's a prejudice against men.
My gosh, it's crazy. But I did a program about that, because Jane Hatchie was berating white Welsh men and all this type of stuff. And I think if they can't take down any other grouping, they're going to go for the men next. Yeah. And if we don't stop it now, it's going to get out of
It's
control.
The same thing with the colour as well. So that there's a target for every new recruit to the Welsh Government, so that'd be the civil service of the Welsh Government, to be, 20% of new recruits to be black or minority ethnic. Right? So the 6% of the population of Wales are black and minority ethnic. They got a 20% recruitment target for new recruits to be black and minority ethnic. So the only way you can achieve that is if you discriminate against white people. You have to.
Because we're a majority white country.
You have to do. And they want to get a balance, because I think it's less than 6% at the moment. So presumably they'll put that in place until there's 6%. But you're going to be refusing better candidates based on the colour of their skin.
And business suffers. Everything suffers then.
It's nonsense.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
My God.
So, so I'd be glad to see the back of this Labour government.
So do you think that after May, depending on who gets in, we're going to see a dramatic change in Wales? Either way, it could be dramatically worse or dramatically better.
Yeah.
We're not going to get this in between, it looks like.
Yeah.
It's going to be dramatic either way.
I don't know. I don't know what Plaid are going to do. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to say. But, because they've tried to go more progressive, or say progressive. They've been trying to go more left than Labour,
Well, they've done so left, they're on the right, I think. They've done far right.
I had this idea of, of choosing candidates on the colour of the skin.
Yeah,
I just
it's crazy.
hate it. Or their sex. I just hate it.
Yeah.
So get back to the individual and the merit of the individual would be ideal. I don't know how we achieve that.
Yeah.
I'm hoping, the culture will change at some point.
Yeah.
I sympathise with Lynette Morgan, and maybe I'm wrong too, because she's been part of the Labour government to put all this in, but she obviously has a strong Christian background. She had a Christian father, Reverend Bob Morgan. So I can't believe, and in fact, she's one of the ones. The good thing is, there's democracy these days. You can look at Senate TV and see the Senate chamber and things being said. So you see Hannah Blythe saying, trans women are women, trans men are men, non-binary identity is valid. And you can see all the ones who applaud.
Sure.
So, and Lynette Morgan never applauded. So I think she probably thinks, this is a bit ridiculous. Yeah. Privately, I think she thinks that. So I do sympathise with, because she's been dealt such a difficult hand. I mean, if she was leader instead of Mark Draker, maybe things would have been different.
Yeah.
But now it's hard for her, isn't it? But
Yeah.
I don't think she's, I don't think she's on board with this
No.
madness in the same way as the others.
So what would you say to Christians? What can they do right now that will encourage us to start turning the right direction and not allowing ideologies to infiltrate your church, for starters, because it has infiltrated a lot of churches. What can Christians do other than pray?
Yeah, it's pray. It's make sure. I mean, the dangerous thing is for the kids, I think.
Yeah.
And I mean, fortunately, we've had the CAST report now. But as mentioned to you earlier on, I mean, we could have gone down a road which was so dangerous. There was a LGBTQ plus action plan which was created in the last few years. And the members of the expert panel that created the plan included Emma Reynolds, who's this queer theory, the changing the language change project, queer theory it's called. So she was on the panel. They also had Lou Thomas and Lisa Power from Stonewall. Lisa Power and Lou Thomas were expert witnesses at the Vale of Glamorgan Council meeting, where they came up with a trans and gender inclusion toolkit for schools. It's now been withdrawn, but I'm just amazed at the time that that council members would approve this, because the toolkit said, right, it says, although a child may have a body of a boy, he is in every other way a girl and should be treated as such. So they talk about a trans child.
Yeah.
I think, what? I mean, the implications of that statement,
It's crazy.
in terms of anthropology and religion and psychology and philosophy, he is in every other way a girl and should be treated as such. I mean, it's just mind-blowing.
It is. It's unbelievable.
Scary. I mean, really scary,
So get your kids to Sunday school, basically. Counteract
Get your
it.
kids, well, you need to see what's going on in schools.
Yeah.
I mean, so any Christian who's got kids in schools, check to see what they've been taught.
And as well, have conversations with your children. I think that, I was talking about this with the previous MS, but being around the table and having conversations seems to be something that's past times. When it's parents' job, not the education system, to talk about social things, to make your children aware of them and to teach them the ways in which they should go. If the parents mobilised into teaching their children these things again, maybe they won't be so naive to the world around them.
Yeah, I think this has been going on in America for longer than it has here. And I think they found that children from Christian families were more resilient to this ideology than if they weren't from Christian families.
Yes.
So it does help to be grounded in something which is, and maybe it's the community, maybe it's having other people around you to reinforce what's right, and true. I don't know. But you need the conversations. You certainly want to get your kids off social media, I think, or at least not spend so much time on it.
Totally.
Because I don't think spending time on TikTok is going to be very good for them.
Well, it's hard, isn't it, these days, when all the kids have mobile phones and then you feel like you're not allowing them to be in communication with their friends, but it's encourage them, go out. Spend time with these people, with your friends.
Yeah, I think face-to-face is much more healthy than actually
across the board.
Online. Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Do you mean?
Just go out and see people, touch grass, kick football.
Kick a football. I love it. Just be normal.
Just be normal. Don't invent genders. No. Whatever you do, don't invent genders.
No,
it's a bad road to go down.
You're going to have problems in life. It's just part of it. Tribulations. Don't add another one to your life.
You don't.
Needlessly.
Yeah,
there's no need.
Just get back to this. I mean, I just want politicians to be truthful again.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. I mean, the Supreme Court have said now that, and this is, the Supreme Court has said that you shouldn't have men in women's spaces. The Equality Act says the single-sex provisions, and there was some argument whether sex meant legal sex, give a gender recognition certificate. But now the Supreme Court have clarified that it means biological sex.
Yeah.
So men shouldn't be in women's spaces at all.
No.
But they still are in lots of places. So
this is what feminism fought for, I thought.
Yeah, you thought so. Yeah. Still are in lots of places. So, we need to be a bit more firm on that, I think.
Right. Well,
anyway.
But thank you, Nigel, for coming and talking about this, as I think it's so important for people to hear this argument, especially because you're so grounded and the way that you present it, it's just so common sense. It's really wonderful for people to hear this, but I want to encourage Christians engage, watch this whole programme and really take on board what is said so that we can, encourage change in our society and a better way. There is a better way than this.
There is a better way.
There
Just
is.
treat people as humans and individuals.
Exactly.
Be colourblind, and be just gender blind.
Yeah, gender blind. I love it. Fabulous. Thank you very much, Nigel.
Thank you. And
Thank
thanks
you.
for all you're doing.
No, thank you.